The tone of the conversation shifts with that one word, and I'm on alert again. I stare her down, but she stares into the red of her glass, her fingers fiddling with the skinny and tall stem. You feeling okay with Cillian getting out soon? My stomach drops at the casual question. I'm frozen with my glass at my lips, ready to take another sip. Finally, I do it just so I can complete the movement, then put it back down on the countertop. I don't taste a thing. I didn't know Sil was getting out. No one told me. Lydia's dark eyes go wide and then narrow. But he's staying with you? She makes the statement almost like it's a question. What? That's what Reed said. He couldn't convince him otherwise. My head falls back with disbelief. He was just here, standing right where she is. What? Pure nerves crush into my stomach. When did he tell you that? Last week, she answers nervously. How didn't he tell you? How didn't anyone tell me? I respond, pushing my wine away. Cillian is coming here. Emotions swarm through me, making every thought harder to focus on. I swear to God that's what he said. He came in and— Reed came in? I interrupt her to clarify, and while she's rushing out an explanation of what happened, panic takes over. All I can see is Cillian, standing in this small rental, taking up every inch of the place and staring back at me with his sharp blue eyes, asking why I stopped coming, why I stopped calling. My body goes cold, and I can barely hear a word Lydia says. You stopped calling, too. I can already hear myself answering. And his imagined answer makes my fingers go numb. 'Cause you stopped loving me, Hellcat. Are you okay? What? I snap out of it and have to wipe under my eyes. I'm so sorry, Cat, Lydia says, and rushes over to me, but I put a hand up, stopping her. I'm fine. I should have told you the second Reed said something, but I just assumed you didn't bring it up 'cause I'm fine, I repeat, hardening my voice, and she's silenced by it. I should have told you. Do you know when? I ask her, not bothering with should-haves and could-haves. Staying with me. That means staying here in this tiny house, the one that's meant to be a bridge away from the past. No one said a word to me. Not Reed, not Lydia. I had no idea. I'm not sure. Soon, though. In order to be released, he needs a place to stay. Reed didn't tell you anything? No. No one told me anything. Don't I need to sign something for that? Well, Reed helped you get this place, right? The chair protests against the floor as she takes her seat again, holding the glass with both hands. Yeah. I needed someone to co-sign with me. Fucking Reed. If he were here, I'd lay into him. How could he do that, knowing what happened? A voice answers all on its own. If Sil told him to make it happen, he'd do it. I nearly voice the thought. Instead, I swallow it down with another large gulp. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to say. I feel numb and lightheaded, like I might pass out any second. He's coming home, and he didn't tell me. He's coming here, and Reed didn't tell me. Everyone's been keeping secrets, Lydia murmurs, and she gives me a look full of sorrow before taking a swig. You want me to stay with you? I whisper. Yeah. Can you just stay till I fall asleep? Of course, she answers, reaching out for my hand, and I let her take it. A million thoughts overwhelm me. Every single one about Cillian. Every single one a regret.
Chapter 2. Cillian. The rumble of the bike beneath me almost broke me earlier today, when the sun was setting across the horizon, and the pale hues brushed against the barbed wire of the fence I left behind me. The grip of the handle, the rev of the engine only inches below me, and the wind against my face. 4 years went by in a blur, yet the life I left behind feels as if I barely know it anymore. You sure? Reed questions as he parks his truck, and the alcohol swirling in my blood makes my head sway. The idea of being released early on probation was one thing, and the expectations I had for this night were low. But tonight is anything but the celebration the men claimed it to be as beer bottles clinked and they cheered. Longing for what used to be sunk its claws into me. As I stare at Kat, the light from her kitchen against the dark night giving me every detail, I sink deeper into the worn leather seat of Reed's truck. Regret and something else I can't articulate weigh me down. Who is she now? This woman I used to love, and now a woman I don't recognize. 4 years and her absence changed what was once between us. I barely remember what we talked about the last time we spoke, but I know she didn't tell me she loved me. Her calls had stopped months before, but I kept calling her. Until she didn't say those words back. That was over a year ago. And yet somehow I thought this would be the right thing to fucking do the night I get out of prison. Fuck, I say, and my hand runs down my face as I lean my head back, letting the reality sink in. You can stay with me, Reed states as if it's decided, turning the key over and the ignition protests just as much as I do. He keeps telling me that. He's been saying it for weeks, trying to get me to change my mind. I'm going in there, I say, and my voice bellows with more anger than I realized I had. What's between Kat and I may be different. I'm sure as hell different, colder, meaner even. Hell, I don't know how anyone could love me after what I've done behind bars. A tremor runs through my hand and I form a fist to stop it. I dreaded a number of things. I confess to my best friend, clearing my throat as I do and making sure to keep my voice even. I dreaded seeing my father's grave. I dreaded seeing my Uncle Eamon, now the prez who barely spoke to me while I was away. I dreaded seeing the fucking club. Don't say that. He tries to interrupt me, his voice thick with sympathy I never fucking asked for. The leather groans as I turn to look him in the eye. It's the truth. Some nights I blame the fucking club. But I never dreaded seeing you or her. Until now. Gripping the handle in my right, and the strap to a duffel bag with the essentials in my left, I swing open the old truck door and listen to it creak as I step out. Spending the night with Reed made me certain of one thing. We're still the same. Now I need my Hellcat back. A nervousness prickles across my skin as the wind creeps up my leather jacket. Even if she doesn't want me, I murmur beneath my breath as I hear the slam of Reed's door and then his heavy footsteps quickening to catch up to me. She fucking owes me. All I could think about every night was walking up these concrete porch steps. As Reed races to beat me to the door, using the iron knocker, I'm all too aware of how I pictured walking right in, not stopping or hesitating in the least. She'd stand there, her eyes wide, first with shock, then relief and adoration. Sometimes that's what I pictured as I fell asleep on that hard bed, with images of her writhing under me in my head. Other times my eyes stayed open as I stared at the cracked ceiling of the cell, imagining how she'd back away, how she'd tell me she couldn't be with a man like me, that she knew what I'd done and that I was all wrong for her, that everything we ever were was a mistake. She told me then in these fucking terrors that kept me wide awake just like it did last night that she regretted ever being with me and it was over. I prepare myself for whatever it is she has to say, as a voice I know all too well calls out, "Coming!" If she's going to leave me, she's going to have to do it to my face. I think this is a mistake. Reed's murmur is spoken just beneath his breath, as is my response. I'll add it to my fucking resume. The crickets are the only sounds I can hear over my racing heart, until the door opens. Thump, thump. The light of the foyer creates a golden halo around her. Standing all of 5 feet 2, Kat stares up at me, her gorgeous eyes working their way up from my chest until she meets my gaze. Her expression isn't at all how I pictured. Time pauses for a moment, It's gone too fast, but it stills long enough for me to take in her cherry lips, her hazel eyes, and the shock that disappears far too quickly, replaced with a shadow that hides a woman I used to know. Thump, thump. The door opens with a groan, and she stands to the side, her gaze moving easily from me to Reed as she tells us to come in. Her cadence is soft but confident, and I nearly second-guess everything until she peeks up at me and her grip on the door tightens. There's the look I've been dreaming up, staring back at me through a glossy gaze. It's nearly gone as quickly as I see it, but I know damn well it's there. As she glances to the floor and licks her lips, I don't take my eyes from her, and she's quick to bring hers back up, but it stops at my mouth. Heat spikes through my blood. That's my needy girl. Even if she doesn't openly admit it, even if she's wary, she wants me still. The tension crackles between us, although it's quickly extinguished. I could smell the beer and whiskey from all the way in the kitchen, Lydia states evenly, with a touch of humor, as she leans against the open doorway through Kat's home. I've seen pictures of this place, Reed showed me. He kept tabs on her for me. And although the compliment is there, I like your place. There's not a word that could leave my dried throat right now, even if I tried. It's silent and awkward between Kat and me, as Reed makes small talk with Lydia, and I share stolen glances with the woman I never stopped loving. Her thin cotton nightgown barely hides her curves, although it's baggy on her small frame. I know I've aged while I've been gone, with dark circles under my eyes that never used to be there, and lines from constant stress and worry. But Kat's changed too. Without an ounce of makeup on her, there are bags under her eyes, and I wonder if it's because she couldn't sleep knowing I'd be knocking on her door tonight. Her hair is shorter, cut just above her shoulders and dyed a pretty blonde that complements her olive skin tone. Kat walks past me, careful not to brush against me, to stand beside Lydia, and motions to the stairs at my right. The instinct to slip my arm around her waist and pin her against the wall is only stopped by her statement when she says, "The guest room is ready for you." Thump, thump. I want nothing more than to hold her, but instead I'm paralyzed where I am. A fucking guest room. A chill flows through me, keeping me where I am and threatening to take her away again if I say or do anything at this moment. Reed clears his throat and Kat crosses her arms, refusing to look at him. A beat passes and I finally speak. "You two not friends anymore?" I motioned between the two of them, although my gaze traps Kat's and my pulse rages against my veins. She swallows thickly before answering me with the gentleness that tells me she's feeling the same thing I am, that all of this is balanced on a cord, wound so tight it may break. "He didn't tell me you were coming," she says and licks her lower lip before adding with a sigh, "I had to find out from Lydia." It's only now that I realize I'm far too drunk for this. Fuck. I stand there, time ticking away, just taking her in. My eyes roam down her body and back up, and although I want her more than anything, I can't help but to notice how her bottom lip wobbles and she catches it between her teeth. It's telling me the same thing that her glossy eyes and her defensive posture are. Two strong hands press against my back. "We had a lot to drink, so," Reed states, pushing me forward, but I'm far from ready, even if the alcohol is wearing on me, making my head spin and throwing off my balance. The question comes out without my conscious consent. "You don't want me here." "I didn't say that." She raises her voice for the first time, her gaze piercing through mine with thinly veiled desperation. Reed shoves at my back. "You're drunk, man, come on." My grip loosens and the duffel bag drops to my feet. "I need to hear you say it." I blurt out and then catch myself. Fuck, she makes me weak. She has me under her thumb and doesn't even know it. "Say what?" She's quick to ask, and that eagerness promises she'll say what I want to hear. But I'm too much of a bitch to risk it. "Tell me you want me to stay here." I say instead, and then I'm quick to amend it, that it's all right that I stay with you. Reed bends at my side, picking up the duffel bag and not looking at either of us. Lydia looks anywhere but at us too, and all the while, I wait. Of course you can. I'm just, she says and glances down, then back up at me. I'm just surprised you want to. Her voice nearly breaks and the corners of her lips turn down. Fuck, I hate this. I hate every moment of it as a cold sweat breaks out on the back of my neck. It kills me how she looks as if she's on the verge of breaking down. Lydia must see it too, because she's quick to tell me to get my drunk ass upstairs. Welcome home, she adds before stepping between Kat and me. I can't help myself, though. I ask her, did you think I forgot about you? I know you haven't forgotten about me. Let's go, Reed says, and grabs my arm, pulling me to the stairs as Lydia takes Kat's hand, taking her away from me. In all the ways I imagined coming back to her, this sure as hell wasn't the reality I expected. That's all I can think as I climb up the stairs, wishing I'd had enough beer to pass out at the fucking bar so I could have avoided all of this. At one point, I was strong for her, but after 4 years, all I feel is broken or pissed off, and there's no in-between until I look at her. I barely know who I am anymore, but all I want to know is whether or not she could love me again.
Chapter 3. Kat. Seeing the two of them together is surreal. Reed, and most notably, Cillian. My heart is all sorts of crushed, yet still able to beat, furiously and nervously at the same time. With my fingers numb and barely able to breathe, I watch, unable to say a word. Although I grimace as Syl stumbles and my chest flips with an ache. My Cillian, my rock and my ride or die. He's a shell of the man he used to be. He's still handsome and every bit of how I remember him. But 4 years in prison aged him, obviously so. He doesn't seem to have slept a bit, given that darkness under his eyes. He's more than toned now. The muscles that ripple in his shoulders and down his arms pull at the cotton of his shirt as his leather jacket falls to the floor. Sexy and sinful, but there's a brokenness that's undeniable. Even as he attempted to hide it when I opened the door, I felt it. In the very marrow of my bones, my body ached in mourning of what's become of him. I always knew him to be deadly and brooding even, but this is a different brokenness. It takes everything in me not to gather him up myself and let out these sobs. It's been a year since I've seen him, and that year must have been hell. Regret pulls my gaze away as Reed mutters, "Come on, you're drunk," yet again. Judging by Reed's scowl, he's on the verge of pulling Syl out of my house by the arm and back to his truck. I should let him do it. This whole thing, Syl staying with me after his release, no warning. It shouldn't be happening. No one has the right to show up at my house and demand to stay with me. But I know I'll never forgive myself if I let this happen. Syl is in no state to go anywhere else. He's drunk, and there's a darkness in his eyes that scares me because I don't think he's able to hold back a single thing. It also begs me to comfort him. My fingers itch at my side, and as they do, Lydia tugs at my arm and silently mouths the word no, as if she could read my mind. I hate everything about this moment. The tension between the four of us is so thick it makes my heart pound. Reed's about to get physical with him. Drag him out of here back to his truck. You shouldn't even be driving, I tell Reed without looking at him, my arms crossed as I sink back into the chair, Lydia standing as if she's my warden by my side. Reed mutters, "I'm not driving." "You drove here," I bite back and peek up at him, but he's still focused on Syl. "I'll walk home. I needed to drop him off, but we'll both leave now." Both leave. My heart stalls in protest, and everything goes cold. "No," Syl states with finality. Syl's hardly spoken to me, but I could easily hear the slight slur in his voice, and I can barely look him in the eye. I have no idea what Reed told him about me. I don't know what Syl knows, which only intensifies the betrayal that overwhelms me. 2 drunk men, 4 years of hell for all of us, and a stubborn man who doesn't know what's good for him anymore. Shit. This is going to turn into a fight. It's an invitation for the cops to get nosy. Syl doesn't need that. I don't need that. Let him go and head home, I tell Reed. You can come back for your truck in the morning. You sure about this? Because he doesn't get a chance to finish as Syl interrupts. I'll go upstairs, he says, then clears his throat and the cords in his neck tighten as he swallows. And you walk home. She's right. Syl shakes off Reed's arm and balances himself on the banister. My God, the pull I feel to him as he closes his eyes and steadies his breath. Reed tosses Syl's duffel bag toward the foot of the stairs, nodding. Lydia offers him a ride, which he rejects, and then he and I share a look, one that brings that ache back tenfold. Come on, I say, and open the door for Reed. I shoo him away, but I stand on the porch and make sure he doesn't drive. I don't think Reed is as drunk as Syl, but he definitely shouldn't be behind the wheel. When he's gone, I shut the door and lock it, then push the deadbolt shut and set the code too. I can feel Syl standing behind me. His very presence is throwing heat into the room. So for a long moment, I keep my back to him, doing everything I can to not tremble and keep my composure. Lydia shuffling around in the kitchen is the only thing I can hear. I wish the creak of the stairs would tell me Cillian's doing what he said he would, but he's not. When I turn, he's right where he was before, but fully turned around, his light blue gaze focused right on me. Those big, wounded puppy dog eyes don't match the brutality of this man in the least. A cabinet opens, and then closes to the left of us. Lydia's lingering in the kitchen to give us space, I bet. And I'm glad she did. I can't have this moment with Syl in front of anyone else. Not her. Not Reed. I think I might be drunk, Hellcat, he rumbles, and his lips kick up into an asymmetrical smile I've missed. All of that apprehension vanishes, and it's something else that forces me forward, one step at a time. Hearing that nickname in his voice, drunk and scratchy and tired, makes me go weak in the knees. My response is gentle and somehow comes out even. You should probably go to bed then. Standing a safe 3 feet away from him, I cross my arms over my chest to keep my hands where they are. His gaze drops, making note of it. A sad smile on his face is all I'm given. I swallow thickly and head up the stairs to the 2nd floor, past him, my arm brushing against his. And when we touch, my God, that small touch. My eyes close, and I breathe in deep, quickening my pace when I hear the stairs creaking behind me with his weight. A narrow hall leads to a bedroom in the back. Syl appears beside me with his duffel bag slung over one shoulder. He looks at the room, the bed, the window. It's not much, but enough for a guest to be comfortable. You want me to go somewhere else? He asks again. No, I say, and my answer is firm even if it is just a whisper between us. I don't need any time to think about it. It surprises me how much I mean it. I don't want him to go anywhere else. Stay here, I tell him, and back up when he takes a half-step forward. You're drunk tonight, I explain, as his arm drops to his side. Tomorrow. I say the word like it's a promise. With a nod and a hint of that asymmetric smile, he repeats, Tomorrow. Good night, Syl. Good night, Hellcat. I almost give in. I almost recklessly go to him. Even with every logical thought that's guarding my heart, part of me wants to feel his lips on mine again more than the rest of me wants to confess my sins and tell him what happened. But in the end, I pull the door closed. The act pulls on strings I'd rather stay still. I only hold it together then and there to tell Lydia she can go home if she wants. She only hesitates a moment. My hands tingle with anticipation as I climb the stairs, my heart thumping with every step. Before going to my room, I check on Sill's, but the door is closed and I don't have it in me to open it. My own bed feels empty in a way it never has before. My body craves to be wrapped around Sill, but my fingers tangle in my hair instead. There's so much to tell him, and each line runs wild in my mind. There's so much I already should have told him. Sleep evades me. The thought of him down the hall, alone under the covers, is too much. It keeps me awake. I toss and turn, the sheets uncomfortably tight and all wrong. Every time I glance at the clock, it's only been 10 minutes, and yet hours tick by. And then another. All the while, I stare at my bedroom door. Should I go to him? I don't even know if Sill would want that. Even if he did right now, he may not after we talk. Time changes everything. Tears form at the corners of my eyes, and I brush them away, struggling to hold on to my sanity. It's difficult not to dwell on the negatives, the thoughts that keep me wide awake. Instead, I think about what used to be. How, at one point, I thought all we had left was our happily ever after. With the memories playing back like a movie, sleep comes and goes in short spurts. Dreams tempt me, and they show me how it once was when we first got together. Morning comes all too soon with a stubborn alarm and tired, reddened eyes. Fuck, I mutter as I smack the clock, hating that I didn't turn it off last night. 6 a.m. is far too early and puts me at only 3 hours of restless sleep at most. Still, I don't bother to stay under the sheets. As soon as I remember, Sill's here. I'm out of the bed, my bare feet on the cold wooden floor. It's not far to his room, but when I get there, the door is wide open. I know what that means before I step through the threshold. My palms are clammy as I steady my breathing. He's not there. With a quick check in the bathroom, only to find nothing, I head downstairs. I rush down, taking the stairs 2 at a time. The house is quiet around me. When I don't see him, I call out his name, and it echoes in the empty house. He's not here, either. I circle the living room to look for signs of him. There are none. He didn't sit on the couch or pull the throw blanket over his legs. Swallowing thickly, I do everything I can to shake off the uncertainty. I don't know why I care so much. He spent 1 night in my house, and it's not like there would be plenty of evidence that he was here. As the heat of panic creeps up my arms, I just need some proof. Some little thing to say Sill's really back home and last night wasn't a dream. He was here with me. As I head to the living room to grab my phone that's charging, ready to text Lydia, I see the note. A slim piece of paper from the notepad I used to make grocery lists. He didn't leave me with nothing, after all. It's from Sill. I have to take care of a few things, like getting a phone. I'll call you and I'll see you tonight. If you need anything, or you need me, call Reed. 6 years ago. A younger version of Sill, only 17 years old, leaned over the pool table. Shot after shot, he cleared the table with ease. He was a shark even then. I remember thinking he probably learned how to play from his dad, but I didn't care about that. All I cared about was how hot he looked in the dim lights of the rec room. He wore a tight black t-shirt that showed off his muscular arms. Sinking a ball into one of the pockets, easy as can be, he looked up at me. A smirk immediately met his lips. He didn't disguise how much he wanted me, and I didn't attempt to hide anything either. He let his eyes linger on my face for a long time, until I blushed. Our fathers were doing business upstairs. They did that a lot and left the two of us alone. I met Sill's father before I met Sill. He told me, more than once, he thought Sill and I would get along well. Which is probably why my father never brought me to the MC club. Until that night. "You want to play?" Sill asked. "I don't know how." "Bullshit." He grinned at me and every inch of me went hot. "You're Angelo's daughter. You trying to hustle me?" My teeth caught my lower lip, although it didn't help hide my smile. "Little con artist, aren't you?" "Maybe." I picked at the torn jeans I wore. "What were you going to bet me then?" I blushed deeper, imagining all the things I could say if I had the courage. "'Cause I was gonna bet you a kiss." "If you won, you wanted a kiss from me?" I questioned him. The idea of Syl wanting a kiss from me was like winning the lottery. Even if it never happened, that didn't matter. He wanted a kiss from me, and I could barely breathe with how excited that made me. I knew he could tell. I wasn't very good at hiding anything. His growing smile forced away any insecurity I had. Unfortunately, it didn't last for long. Both our fathers clattered down the stairs at that moment, their voices coming into the rec room ahead of them. I didn't get to hear Syl's answer if he gave me one. I fell in love with him at that moment. I never stood a chance. He was sexy and sinful, but charming and easy in a way I'd never felt before. There was an attraction I couldn't deny on my side, and he wanted me back. Nothing was ever going to top that. Nothing.